Business owners or businesses, you're the coat rack. You're the hat rack. And when an employee walks in that door, they're taking that hat off and they're putting it on that hat rack.
Company itself doesn't, enforce culture. We're encouraging an environment where that culture can evolve.
Yes.
And that comes from the team. So
smiles are contagious. It's like when you pick up the phone, you can hear their smile. That's important. Your staff will enjoy being around each other. They're around each other for longer than their own families a lot of the time. Welcome back. It is yet another episode of the Challentunity podcast. I'm excited to be here. I am your host, Chris Lawson. We are taking on a topic today that is close to my heart, mainly because I'm a social butterfly. All that being said, I'm joined by my co-host, who I don't know how passionate he is about this topic, because he was once quoted, "Sting like a bee, but do not float like a butterfly. That's ridiculous." So Jordan Woolf, how are you today?
it's an interesting statement that I have supposedly made.
You've said every single thing for sure.
Yeah, are you chat GDPing these quotes? Because I think they're just making them up.
I should. I actually should. You'd think I would have done that. No, every single thing that we've said to date with your intros comes from a very specific place. And maybe I'll reveal it. Do you want me to reveal where these have come from? No, you want? Okay,
No.
We'll keep rolling with
We'll
it.
save that for a future episode. That way we can get subscribers, because that's what they're really here for.
Yeah. They're only listening to the first 4 minutes of the podcast to see how I introduce you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, hopefully you haven't left yet now that I've done that introduction, but we have an interesting episode. It's not going to be a long one, but it's going to be one that I think ties in things that are going to be relevant to every single municipality, business, organization. If you have staff, if you have employees, if you are an employee itself, this stuff will resonate with you as well. So we are going to tackle the reasons that staff want to stay with a company. Why do individuals stay with a company for years and years and years? There's reasons behind it.
This is a topic that I feel, just to be upfront, very overqualified and way underqualified to talk about at all. Have I run businesses? Yes. Have I hired people? Yes. Have I had what I feel is a pretty good company culture and success rate with that? Yes. But I also feel like there's so much still to learn and so many mistakes yet to make, and it's kind of an imperfect world. And I'm certainly not coming from an HR background, and neither are you. So we're going to do our best from the perspective of two idiots running a business that are just trying to make our way in this crazy world.
Whoa, speak for yourself. Well, I will say that we should preface some things, because I don't want, even we have HR clients even, they'll be calling us tomorrow, Number one, we are not experts in HR, nor are we experts in benefits or different topics we're going to cover, okay? All we can tell you is, as business owners who have built a really healthy culture and have staff that have stayed for a long period of time, this is both common knowledge and feedback that we've received over the years. The other thing here is that although we're speaking about these, we recognize that it's not universal. There's scalability elements to this. If you're a business with 3 employees, that's different than one with 10 or 20 or 50 or hundreds or thousands. It's a very different. Now, all of these components, the reasons that staff want to stay with a company, I think will apply generically, but I would challenge you, if you're listening or watching us, first of all, add comments. We'd love to hear your feedback on it from the perspective of how does this apply in the world that you live in. So
I'm hoping it'll just be useful to some degree as we go through this. We can tell you what we've done, what's worked, what hasn't, what's been ideas that have stuck out and really stuck to the wall as we've gone through it, and maybe that'll work in your environment too.
Well, we have 5 of them. We have 5 reasons that we've come up with. The first one, and maybe what we'll do is we'll have a number 1 pop up here or something on the screen. I don't know. I don't think I can do that on here live. But number 1, competitive compensation. I think It's common sense. People want to be paid for what they think they're worth. If you're underpaid, you don't want to be there. If you're overpaid, sometimes that also causes strain on an individual where they feel they have to overproduce. And that's obviously going to tie to their personality and things. But from the perspective of people staying with you long term, if you are paid according in fairness within the market evaluation, within the economy and all those types of things, you're going to stay. You're going to stay.
Yeah, I mean, show me the money, right? It's top of mind on a lot of people, and it's necessary. I'll be the first that once you get to know me, as much as I've been running a business and I run a marketing company, and that's very much in the capitalist world. We don't live in a socialist utopia, although that'd be great, to have that world. But until we're in a world where we're no longer paying bills, this is an important topic to cover, and we all are paying bills. So money must happen. But there's also a couple things I think as a business owner that are healthy to frame when you're even thinking about compensation, whether that's your own or the staff, is yours is based upon your motivation with the business. Maybe you've got a particular passion for why you started this business, and those are the things that are driving you, along with maybe the opportunity to make money. For an employee, largely they're coming there for some structure, some things that are going to help them to maybe go along with their career. And we'll talk about some of these other motivating factors, but their compensation is meant to give them compensation for something they otherwise would not do on their own for free. So, we want to make sure that we are, not treating employees like as if they're mini owners and expecting all the, extra time and effort that an owner might put in, because it's not the agreement. Now, if they're really passionate about what they do and maybe they've got other reasons to go above and beyond, that's great too. And, that can be part of the considerations, but, rewarding people for going above and beyond. But most people are going for a job where they can apply their skills and turn those skills into money. So if that's something you're approaching, I think with this model, then you might be starting from a somewhat balanced perspective.
Well, and there's different, types of compensation too. There's salary, there's hourly, there's commission-based roles, there's all these different things. But what you can kind of understand, I think, with this is that, whether you started into your career because you're passionate about it and you enjoy your work, you want to get paid there, or B, you don't necessarily love your job, or you didn't get into that industry for any specific reason, you want to get paid. So as an employer, it's important, I think, a couple tips here. Number one, understand the market evaluation for what those roles are being paid for, and understand that your staff are probably going to look on their own at different points, whether it be at day one or later on, wondering if they're going to get a raise and do they deserve it. Understand inflation, cost of living. Those things matter. You might not be boosting your staff up every year at the rate of inflation. Your staff will feel it. Your business will feel it if you mismanage that and you go too aggressive as well. So keep that in mind. And then the other one that also comes is go outside of the borders geographically as well. So if you're in a certain city, don't just look at your city. Don't just look at your province or your state. Go outside of that and just understand that your staff or individuals who work for you will be looking, and they probably know people that graduated with them or friends or colleagues who know other bits of information. They all talk. So compensation, very important.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to spend all our time talking about like what we do because it may not apply to your situation. There's lots of different models. Some companies have flat salaries that are the same for every individual, no matter what role they take. Others have wildly different or performance based. Those are all valid within the things we just talked about. For us, just making sure that we're paying above average when we start, and then rewarding people for recognizing when they're adding more value, when they're growing, they're improving their performance. Those are all opportunities to make sure that value is returned back to them. And most of the time that return can be most, recognized in dollars and cents. Sometimes there's opportunity or other career developments, but dollars and cents should be something you're definitely considering on that plate.
Yeah. And if you're not already projecting that, within your budgets each year, you should start thinking about that. you don't want to be having these discussions with your management or your executives or whatever, saying, hey, I got to boost this person, or I got to give this person, a raise, and they haven't had it in 4 years, but you have a budget for it. Number two, the second reason why we believe staff want to stay with a company long term is a positive work environment and or culture. Do you want me to take a crack at this one, Jordan?
Yeah, we have different concepts, I think, to some degree about how we frame this, but we end up in similar places. So yeah, go for it, and I'll.
Yeah, you want me to? Well, the reason why I asked if you want me to is because I'm very passionate about the topic of corporate culture. I think a corporate culture needs to be reflective of what you're trying to accomplish as an organization. If the corporate culture is going the opposite direction of what you're trying to get the business to do, that's a problem. So the way that you build that culture, whether it be, and I understand that, a marketing agency's corporate culture can be a lot more fun and flowy and energetic than, say, an assembly line worker who's got a headset on and they're by themselves, right? So corporate culture can be very different from one business to the next. But if you are able to have somebody enjoy coming to the office, enjoy coming to their job every single day, there's a number of things that are going to happen. Number one, it's contagious. Smiles are contagious. It's like when you pick up the phone, you can hear their smile. That's important. Your staff will enjoy being around each other. They're around each other for longer than their own families a lot of the time. Number two, it will impact the attrition and retention rates of your clients, right? If you're a real estate agent, take that into consideration when you're dealing with your staff that are answering phones and so on and so forth. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. Smiling, happy people are going to impact the bottom line at the end of the day. There's a whole bunch of things that we do to impact that. But before I do, Jordan, I'd love to hear your take on the topic.
Yeah, I try not to buy into the Kool-Aid side of culture. Culture is very much a rah, rah, rah
Love Kool-Aid
kind of thing in a lot of movies. And, you'll see these big companies do the big stand-up meetings where everyone gets around and dances and does that kind of stuff. And to them, that's culture. That stuff just makes if I had hair, stand on
So
edge.
we can't get a ball pit? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
No ball pits?
So to me, building culture is very difficult. It's not an easy thing to do. Actually, out of all the things on this list, this one's the probably the hardest to do correctly. And even if you do correctly, to keep in a healthy zone. Because you're not completely in the driver's seat in the way that some of the other ones are. In my perspective, and this, is something that might be a little bit unique to how I view it, but, I see it as setting the role of the business owners to set the lighthouse in the distance that we're all headed towards. So like paint a good picture of what you think a good, productive, healthy company culture could be, have them really understand what that is, and then maybe put a couple lampposts along the way so they know a rough path there to go, but let them walk it themselves. Like the company itself doesn't, enforce culture. We're encouraging an environment where that culture can evolve.
Yes.
And that comes from the team. So, a lot of the times if culture has become something where you maybe it's not going the right way, or maybe the vibe in the office isn't quite right, people are, grumpier than normal, then allow the team to kind of see where they wanted to go and remind each other that, hey, maybe we can approach this a different way. Maybe we can, interact in a more positive light that's going to help them to get there. And that's going to do most of the heavy lifting. Because there's nothing wrong with setting a good, goal of objective in the end of where you want the culture to be. But there's two different experiences for the employee. If one is you're like, hey, let's all travel in that direction, versus, hey, you got a chain around their neck and you're dragging them that way. That's even though you're headed to the same positive thing, the road to get there is not going to get you there in the end, because they're going to be resistant and it's going to be very, difficult along the way, even though you think you're doing something right for them.
I think there's really two vibes that happen in any corporate culture. There's the like positive raw, I love coming to work, and like, the person who sits in the booth beside me is really funny, or, oh, my manager, he does these things that, make me feel uplifted. That's one part of it. The other part of it is, I think it's Barbara Coloroso that actually talks about this in the world of parenting, but what you permit, you promote. So there's an element of, if you allow things that are causing your culture to go awry, if you don't nip it, it'll grow. You are promoting it because you're permitting it. And so there's two parts to that. The first part of it is, how do you curate and produce this positive culture as an employer? Well, you have to create those opportunities. You have to allow people to be themselves. If somebody's got a bit of a potty mouth, you can bring it back a little bit, but you're not trying to change them. You want people to feel comfortable. Some of the things that we do every quarter, we do corporate events. We go out and we create these events where people can talk and mingle, and we even try to put them into groups or like bowling or whatever, and try to get people to talk who don't normally talk. You know, the guy who's really quiet talking to the person who just doesn't go to that part of the office or whatever, those types of situations. And then we do golfing, and we do all these different things. But at the same time, they are not just fun things for the sake of fun. They are things that we are doing to create positivity. And during COVID, it was nearly impossible for us to do that when everybody was remote. But the second we got back in the office and people wanted to communicate and we were able to do these events, we've had nothing but just a lively, energetic atmosphere that wants to do great things and be a part of something that's bigger than themselves.
Yeah, I think even in that example you gave about somebody who normally doesn't engage in conversation or things like that, and bringing them into a different environment or giving them exposure to different elements is going to be a great way to try to encourage that to come out, rather than like saying like, oh, you stand there and you speak now. It's
talk to Josh.
If you're not getting the outcome you want, sometimes we need to look at like, well, what is motivating that? What environment is going to encourage that? So that's the kind of thing that a lot of ownership has some control over, is those things around the culture that kind of influence it, rather than direct intervention. Direct intervention is important sometimes, but that's usually when it's on the extremes.
Well, and how you do that and how you support the staff member when you do have to kind of put your foot down, is more the important thing. It's not about control. It's not about dictatorship. It's about, hey, there's a reason why we do things a certain way. It is also in alignment with where we're going, and that should align with your career, trajectory. And so hiring comes into that and all that kind of stuff as well. So
now I think the third one was good benefits. Now, benefits is a very broad thing. That means a lot of different things. There are
good benefits,
programs and opportunities in there. I know, Chris, you actually handle that side for the most part in our business, so you've probably got a lot more detail on that than I do. But maybe I'll just set the stage for my piece, and I'll let you handle it from there.
Sure.
Benefits are very specific to where you're coming from as a business. So, benefits are in a lot of ways compensation in a different model. It's compensation in a different way. So, there are certain reasons you might not only want to give people money in compensation. Like, salary is great and cash is king, right? But cash also gets taxed by the government, for instance. You might want to, take advantage of the fact that you can do some medical programs don't have as high taxes or any taxes sometimes, depending on where you are, what state, province, country. So making sure that you have a good blend of what your employees need in that environment and what opportunities and advantages each one of these different programs might offer, rather than putting everything on the backs of salary, is kind of a good way to look at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think it's important for people to understand that not everybody's financial well-being is the same. And having the peace of mind that when something comes up, or if my daughter needs psychology, or I have a medical condition and I need maybe my medication is way more expensive than other medications, or whatever it is, having great benefits means that those individuals don't have to have cash surplus. Now, I understand that people watch our podcast from all over the world. I'm talking specifically from a Canadian perspective. So if you're not in Canada, love this, hate this, whatever. But at the end of the day, how we handle our benefits, tip number one, is we understand the needs of our staff. Years ago, we were much smaller. We couldn't afford to have the executive level package with our insurance provider. And frankly, because we were splitting the cost 50-50 with staff, if we bumped it up, that was a concern. We knew we had to remove more salary from our staff. So that was a concern. But once we got to a certain point where we were able to scale that and have a very good benefits package, it has become not only a reason why people stay with our company, it's become a reason people join our company. So it's not just, Sun Life, Alberta Blue Cross, or, Canada Life, or any of these, we're not paid to say any of these names. I'm just listing some that come to my Manulife. I don't know. It's not about who or anything like that. It's about having the right package that meets your group. In addition to those benefits, there are other types of benefits that people don't think about. Are you creating things like health and wellness days? Are you creating sick days? How do you implement those? Are they questioned? Why are you sick? Why can't you be here? How do you build the culture on that? We offer an app actually to our staff. It's very inexpensive. I won't mention the name because I know there's competitors out there, but at the end of the day, it gives a resource on their phone. They could literally do a triage and talk to a doctor this very second. And I know every single staff member that's used it has loved it. And it's so inexpensive and it's a free thing for them. Right? And then there's other ones that we do. Like we have a health spending account, and we provide our team members with a health spending account once they hit a year. And the reason we do that is because we don't include things like glasses in our benefits, because not everybody has glasses. And frankly, it's a taxable benefit. So what ends up happening is those glasses, yes, you get it every 2 years and it's free. It's not out of pocket, but you've been paying for it for 2 years. And it's actually more expensive to the individual. So we create an HSA, which is literally just money set aside for every staff member. If they want glasses, they can do that. If they max out their chiropractic or psychology benefit or whatever it is, they can access it. That benefit alone has helped so many individuals on our team. And an HSA, at least in Canada, is tax-free because it's governed by CRA. So it's fantastic.
Sorry, everybody not in Canada, but yeah, we've got a really unique program up here. But I think the bottom line to all these things is like, understand your opportunities in your location in comparison to compensation. Look at then the human element of your business. You have people on staff. That's why we're talking about this topic today. They have needs that go beyond what happens between when they step in your door and when they leave. And taking care of those in ways that are going to encourage that they're healthy and happy, make sure that when they do step through the door, that they are able to do the job that you're paying them for. So
people don't come to your office and leave and dream about coming back to the office. If that's what you think, you're crazy. The truth is that people want to have a great life and they can enjoy working, but they work to eventually retire and have that dream life. So let's talk about the next one. If people have these mid to long-term goals in their life, that means that those mid to long-term goals at work, like the objectives that they can accomplish through their job, I think also matter. So number 4, the 4th reason staff like to stay with a company long-term is personal growth. Jordan, this is an area that I think you are more passionate about than I.
Yeah, and I have a couple maybe philosophies that I apply personally, and we'll see if they're universally beneficial. But yeah, I mean, bottom line is what motivates one person is not going to motivate everyone the same way. Some people are very much financially motivated, and the best thing you can do for their career is give them more money. For other people, it's their achievement based or recognition based. They want different things out of their lives. They want to learn or be challenged in different ways. And having first up a really good understanding of that, and that can differ person to person. Even people with the same title and the same role may be, completely motivated by different things. So having a compensation model that also encourages personal growth in different ways, compensation in different ways for individuals is really important. When it comes to personal growth, this is my first philosophy is, at least in our business, I've always looked at, if I'm setting up a role in a business, I have to think about it like setting up a franchise. So a franchise is different from a normal business because a lot of the things are taken care of so that you can, as a business owner who buys into a franchise, get in there, do your job of managing that business as best you can, make some money doing that, and get on with, the rest of your life. Same thing with a job. If I'm hiring somebody who's very skilled at one thing, I want to make sure I'm giving them an environment where all the stuff that doesn't need to apply to them doing that thing is taken care of, and it's very controlled and organized and efficient, so that when they get in there, they know that they just need to be good at what they do and focus in on that. And that does wonders for the business, and that also makes them feel valued and rewarded along the way in their day to day. Now, that may change over time. Maybe they've kind of crafted their skill and they're done with learning what they can learn from this part of their career and they want to move on to the next challenge. Sometimes that's in your business, sometimes that's out of your business. But being as part of that communication, as part of their career planning as you can, is only going to help them and yourself as a business owner, because either they're going to come to the conclusion on their own that they've met their ceiling in this role or in your business and they're going to move on and you're left picking up the pieces, or you can participate in that and be honest when you can give them an opportunity within your framework, i.e., can I honestly build you that franchise for this next opportunity that you want to achieve in your career, or can I not? And if I cannot, maybe there's something I can do to get you the building blocks that get you to the next thing that's outside of our walls. And fair enough, because you were going to go there anyway. And now at least we can work together to plan that. So those are a couple things when it comes to personal growth, career development, that I really like to keep in mind. And that's really gone a long way, because I think the topic of personal growth and career development, education, choosing different jobs and roles, moving laterally or vertically, that will differ drastically individual by individual, to the point it's not really worth me getting into today.
I remember years ago, I went to this manufacturing company, went to this huge boardroom. But before we got to the boardroom, we had to walk down this really large corridor. And on one wall, well, really long wall, were all these jerseys framed. And of course, we took some time to look at them because they were, from movies or, hockey teams or whatever. And then behind me, which was on the other wall, was literally hundreds of pieces of paper taped all over the walls. And what they were is they were assessments. They were personality tests of every single staff member that they had. And they had staff that were there for 15, 20 years, and they had people that were just hired there, and some that they were literally in the hiring process. But they did all the personality tests so that they could understand not just, who that individual was and how they can kind of work and how they could put out fires and, deal with conflict, but also to make sure that they were setting those individuals up to win, putting them in environments that align with their personality, setting up compensation models, all that kind of stuff in a way that aligned with their personality. So I don't know if, Jordan, we could probably do a lot better than this. We've done personality tests, but, doing Enneagram or whatever, like, that is something that if you have the capacity to do in your business without crossing personal boundaries, I would definitely encourage it.
Yeah. So I know we've got one more topic to go into here. Job security. This is another big one. So obviously understand why people want job security. People don't want to be, finding new jobs every few months, or going from one thing to another, or investing time and effort into a business only to find out it goes under a month later. So, this is a trade-off that both sides of the employment equation get. The business is making an investment in the long-term success and value of an individual, and they're making an investment in you as a business, or as a group of owners, or direction as a business, even a whole team. So it doesn't all fall on just the shoulders of the ownership either. This can be the people that are on your team with you. Are they competent? Are they going to let me down? Are they going to fail me and be the reason that I can't work or pay my bills? So all these things are multifaceted again on this topic. Chris, do you want to start with a couple of tips, and I'll throw a couple in after it?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll say something kind of quick here, and I've always believed this. Business owners or businesses, you're the coat rack. You're the hat rack. And when an employee walks in that door, they're taking that hat off and they're putting it on that hat rack. They want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. It is your responsibility to ensure that you provide that. So, like you just said, Jordan, that employer comes in for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, whatever it is, and goes, I'm going to hang my hat up and I'm going to give you everything that I have. And we expect that as employers because we're paying them. But we don't often understand or address the fact that we have to create a stable hat rack for them to actually put that hat on, right? So job security often comes into things like, is there lateral or vertical moves that could happen down the road? Are they building me up in my career? Is the business development or the overall growth of the company sustainable, knowing that I'm always going to have a job? Do I have proper support from people that are above me or beside me? If I don't feel that, I could be one thing that happens and all of a sudden I'm out of a job, right? So job security, I think, is something that is sprinkled throughout every component of a business. But when you look at it from the lens of you have a responsibility to provide it, I think you start looking at things differently than just expecting that it's just going to be there for your staff.
Yeah. I think it's worth saying, like, obviously we're starting from the assumption that you don't want to be that company that's just hiring somebody and firing them, like abusing your employees, and that's your reputation. There are businesses that do that and get away with it for far too long. But we're assuming you
and
want
if
to go
that's
a little
you,
bit
get off our
above and beyond
podcast.
that. Yeah. You're not welcome here. Unless you want to improve, I guess, but be better.
Do better.
The other side to it, though, is even if you have a great company and it is stable and you've got all the game plan, everything's planned out, and you probably have all the right infrastructure, and you hire somebody onto the team, if you're not communicating that or making that visible to them, then it's up to their imagination to see what they see from their perspective about, is this a competent business? Does it have the pieces that are necessary? And I think a lot of business owners, myself included, sometimes will keep too much close to our chest because maybe we're still working on it, or we're refining this, or, like need to know basis kind of stuff. But you need to make some kind of an effort to show, hey, here's what we're doing. Here's why we're doing it. Here's how that's going to help. Here's how that builds a stronger company, better future. And that comes down to your mission setting, your visions, on the really top level on your planning side. But it comes down to the day-to-day, staying in communication and being visible to the team. And then giving your team also the ability to provide support and encouragement for other team members' growth. That can be a big thing as well. Visibility is huge on both sides of that. Yeah.
So in summary, we have 5 reasons staff want to stay with companies long term in our very wise, very intelligent, experienced, yet extremely simple minds.
Womp womp.
Competitive compensation, positive work environment or culture, good benefits, personal growth, and job security. So I think if you're able to master those 5, I think you're in good hands. Now, all that being said, there may be some that you guys are thinking, well, what about that? They forgot about that. Well, guess what? We're not perfect. Let us know. Put in the comments. Shoot us a message. Maybe we'll do an entire podcast episode on that specific topic. But overall, thank you everybody who participated in this episode. It's one that I think business owners think about quite a bit. It might not be something that you think about in your role, but believe it or not, even if you're not in a place of management, these 5 things you can actually help your company to implement. So think about it that way.
Awesome. Well, I know we've got to encourage people to join our next episode. We've got a bunch more planned for the future. So, be sure to remember to share, subscribe, press bells and dinglings and all that kind of stuff. And
push the dinglings.
We'll see you on the next one. And thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everybody. Cheers.